Life Fight with Jermaine Andre is a positive production of RareGem Productions. For previous episodes or to get new episode updates, subscribe to the Life Fight channel hosted on the Inspiration Network of OneRareGem.com. That's OneRaregem.com for the tools you need to take on your life fight. With U.S. Martial Arts Hall of Famer, two-time world champion, five-time U.S. champion, UFC vet, life coach, and author, Jermaine Andre. Visit JermaineAndre.com.
Hello, what's up, everybody? Jermaine Andre, welcome to Life Fight with Rebecca back with me.
Hello.
And today, I'm bringing you somebody in that's going to help you with your fight from the inside. Shawn Stevenson, he's a big-time fitness and health guy, and he's got something incredible in his background that impressed me. That's why I would bring somebody on. It's because they impressed me some kind of way. So we're going to get to him, and he's going to give you all the advice, some advice that I can't even give you. I give you advice for this here, but he's going to get advice for this here, that can help you to get yourself in better shape and, and continue down that positive path. But before we get into that, I do want to mention something that just what was it last weekend, a couple weekends ago, one of my fighters, Drew Gigex, and his name's Drew Gigex, and he's actually, 3 times Midwest champion, kickboxing champion, national kickboxing champion. He had a war.
Yes,
he had the war of his life, and it was on Shamrock Productions down at the Lemire Theater here in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was a tough fight. And
it was.
You got to sit next and watch. You're supposed to.
I was supposed to record it, and I couldn't even record it. I was so excited about the fight.
It was so exciting. And his opponent, I'm gonna tell you, his opponent came out. And I've been working with Drew, and Drew is just at probably right now. Drew's doing exceptional, but Drew's at probably about 30-40% of his capabilities. We still got a lot more to go with, and he's doing. He's taking people out. But this guy that he was going against came out, and you remember his name? What was it? Matt Ray. Matt Ray, and I'm saying his name because, win or lose, there was no shame for anybody on this fight.
Yep.
Matt Ray came at him like a fully loaded Mustang on nitrous. And he was swinging and throwing and swinging, and it's really good to see because, we're planning on taking Drew pro. And I said, before you go pro, you got to get attacked by some wildcats.
Yep.
You got to get attacked by somebody who's trying to take your life with those gloves on. And this guy was doing that. He was everything I was looking for. And so he attacked Drew, and he was on Drew, and Drew was blocking and hitting back and fighting back, and everything. I could see everything that I taught him because I just started working, head movement with Drew. Probably about a couple months ago, where I really started making them work. And every piece of that head movement, he was just, these punches just moved, was, he was blocking things and moving, getting knocked off balance. It was just perfect, all the way up to the third round. And just so Drew was so tired in the first round that he couldn't even talk in the corner. All he could do was listen, get back up and go back out there. But it was a good test to show what kind of heart he had. And then Drew eventually caught him, with a jab, a jab cross. And he hit him so hard with the cross that he even fractured his knuckles through his boxing glove and his hand wraps. But it was such a perfectly placed, jab cross. And one of the things is, a lot of people don't see the secret stuff that I work with Drew, but I've been working a secret drill with him where his hands are connected to his feet with his footwork, which that's something that a lot of people don't know about. They don't think about as fighters. A lot of what happens, they just go out there and they got footwork and they got punches.
Yeah.
But I had been working this drill with him where his hands and feet are working together, and I saw that happen right when Matt Ray was just throwing things. Matt Ray was throwing the kitchen sink, hammers, sledgehammers, car. I think he threw a car in there. He was just swinging on Drew, and they were banging and banging and banging. And I saw Drew's feet plant. There's a certain way it happened, and he threw that jab cross, and then it put him down. They shut him down and knocked him totally out. And that was the game, end of the game for him. So, but it was congratulations definitely to Drew for showing
very intense
the
fight.
Heart of a tiger, man, and showing that our stuff works. And definitely, even a congratulations to Matt Ray for coming out there and bringing a straight war, and making me grow 2 or 3 gray hairs, over there in my man's corner. But it was a great fight. But all right, but moving on along, I want to get you guys before I use up all the time, and I'm gonna bring Shawn Stevenson on, and you guys got to listen to what this man got to say because he's got some really, really good advice that can help you to move forward in your health and fitness.
Yep.
What's happening, Shawn?
What's up? How you doing, man?
I'm good here, healthy. I see you are too.
A little bit, do a little something.
Right on, right on. Well, before we get started, I want to let you know who Shawn Stevenson is. He's a best-selling author and the creator of the Model Health Show. Okay, he's featured as the #1 nutrition and fitness podcast on iTunes, and you also graduated from the University of Missouri.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now, that's his professional side. But I'm going to tell you about what I read that I liked, what I know about him, is that you come from the streets too. And you had to come up in a hard area. You know, one of the things I always tell everybody when you're dealing with, you know, advice from somebody, from a fitness person, you know, a whoever it is, it's got to be from somebody who's got a background that, first of all, did it to themselves, made it through something hard. Because when you get to that point where you got to go through something hard, they have to be able to advise you, and they have to actually care. You know what I'm saying? They got to understand that, man, I know what you're going through because I had it hard before too, and it's hard to make those decisions at that time. So if you can do me a favor and let everybody know about what you went through with your back.
Sure.
And because that's pure gangster right there. You know what I'm saying? To be able to work through that when you're told at, I think, what was it, when you were in college, 20 years old maybe?
20 years old, yeah.
That it's game over for you.
Yes.
You know, and look at you now.
Yeah.
You know, you built like a lighter version of me.
Thank you, man. Yeah, man, it was definitely disheartening experience for sure. So it actually started a little bit earlier than that. I was 15, almost 16 years old, and I was a two-sport athlete doing really well. I had some colleges looking at me, track and football. And I was doing a time trial during track season, 200-meter sprint. Just me and my coach. I'm not racing anybody, just me and my coach. And I'm coming off the curve into the straightaway, and I broke my hip.
Oh, wow.
Just from running, all right? And so being in the, standard of care that I was in at the time, you see a physical therapist, ultrasound, taking some NSAIDs, stay off the leg. So I got the crutches and I got to get out of class early for a couple of weeks. And
worked in your favor a little bit.
Yeah. But the thing was too, and also being a hard-headed guy, I kept coming to practice for like 2-3 more days before it's just like, and I couldn't like get that leg to turn over before like I was forced to go and get it looked at. And the physician took a scan, and there's my hip, and there's my iliac crest, and my bone at the top of my hip was just off in space. He's like, oh, that's the problem. That's why you can't walk. And I'm thinking, of course, like, wow, I wonder how that happened. But I just left. And nobody stopped to ask, how did this 15, 16-year-old kid's hip break? Right? How did it happen? There was no trauma involved. You don't just run and your hip breaks.
Right, your hip just...
And so having bones break like that, especially your hip, is reserved usually for people much older and usually reserved for older women, right? So that spoke to some issues going on with my hormones and also some issues with some things we're going to talk about in a minute. So, but that was just the first snapshot, and it led to a domino effect of injuries that started to happen in high school. My junior year of football, I was tearing it up the first 2-3 games. I had like 5 touchdowns and then just kept snapping hamstrings. Like I pulled my hamstring 10 times over the next 2 years. Either leg just kept going back and forth due to muscle imbalances, and my back would just be torn up after games. And
this is how old were you?
So this is when I was 16 years old.
Wow, this is young.
So it wasn't until, and this kind of ended my athletics, as far as going on to college to play. And I had the opportunity to play in college, but, I would have been redshirted, and that's a whole nother story. And I had a kid at the time, which is another life challenge,
Huge.
So I decided to just, focus on school and work. And it was when I was 20 years old, because I still was working out, that I got diagnosed with degenerative disc disease and degenerative bone disease. So basically my spine and my bones were deteriorating rapidly. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office. And at this point, I was a little bit more self-aware. So I asked, but I was also used to working with trainers. So I was like, okay, what do we got to do to fix this? Right. And he just looked at me like,
so there is no fixing.
Have a look at this MRI, son. You see the disc in your back. This condition is not reversible. This is something you're going to have to deal with. And I was like, so how do we fix it? What do you mean? And I don't know to this day, man. And this is like the miracle of life. I don't know if it was like my future self jumped back into my body. It was my spirit animal or some whatever crazy thing. But I asked him, does this have anything to do with what I'm eating? And he cocked his head and looked at me like, you're stupid. Like, what's wrong with you? And he said that this has nothing to do with what you're eating, but we're going to help you to manage this. We're going to get you a back brace. We're going to get you some medication. And he basically told me, this has nothing to do with what you're putting in your mouth, but go ahead and put these pills in your mouth.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so that's the level of consciousness that I was dealing with. He was well-intentioned, but there wasn't any just basic logic about life. Like what you put in your mouth, of course it's going to matter. And so fast forward the story, 2.5 years go by, I gained about 50 pounds of like fluffiness. I was fluffy Shawn. It was not sexy. I definitely dipped into depressed. Like, I don't even like the word depression. I don't even, it's not in my paradigm, but it definitely dipped into that area. You know, things were looking really bleak and just kind of pointless, you know, like I lost track of my purpose. I was very embarrassed, of course, you know, being like this guy who was an aspiring athlete and
right
you
there
know,
now it's
and now I'm like,
you're the other guy now.
Yes, I'm limping around campus, you know, because I'm still in college, but I kept dropping classes. Like I went from 15 credit hours to 3, you know, and so it was just a difficult time. And this is when everything changed, 22 and a half, and this is where the good part of the story starts. And this is also the biggest takeaway, if people really get this, is that I was sitting on my bed and I had my medication in my hand because I had to take this medication to knock me out, basically, because if I changed position while asleep, it would wake me up, this sciatic pain. And I was looking at the bottle and I was thinking about my grandmother and just like all the potential that she saw in me, and like all these people had such high hopes for me and they said I was going to do all these amazing things. I was like, this is what my life is reserved to. And in that moment, I made the decision to get well. Most people never do that. It's more like wishful thinking. I hope this happens. I'm going to try this. I was done. I was done putting my health off onto other people and expecting them to give me some magical solution. I made the decision, and I'm a big student of lexicon. This is from the Latin de, meaning from, and caedere, which means to cut. So I cut away the possibility of anything else happening except me getting healthy.
Right.
And that really set in place this amazing journey, which it's not like unicorns came out and like rainbow shot out of my butt. It's nothing like that. There's a commercial, but it just jumped in my head, Volkswagen commercial. But it wasn't like that. It was very tangible. I'm a very analytical person. And so I put a plan together, which entailed a lot of things that they were saying don't do. Number one, the lowest hanging fruit for me was movement. You know, everybody kept telling, and I saw different physicians, bed rest, be careful, wear this back brace. Your muscles are going to atrophy.
Right.
Your body requires you to move.
Die.
Exactly. Your body requires you to move in order to heal itself. So I started to move. And for me, it started off as like on a stationary bike. Then I got on a treadmill. Then I got outside. I started doing a little running. I started picking up the weights again. 6 weeks after making that decision, I lost 30 pounds, which results not typical. I lost 30 pounds. And the pain I'd have been experiencing every day of my life that had me in fear of just standing up was gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Right on.
And so that was part one, was the movement. The other part was right nutrition, you know, and really understanding. I asked the question, okay, so my bones are deteriorating. The disc in my back is deteriorating. What are they made of? Right? You know, and it's really a simple principle of life and biology. If you don't supply your body with the raw materials it needs to rebuild itself, it can't do its job.
Yeah, it can't build.
You know? So my body was like robbing Peter to pay Paul, that whole story, you know, trying to do the best it could. And this brought me to studying things like sulfur-bearing amino acids, polysaccharides, the importance of known minerals and vitamins like vitamin C, but understanding the complexity of it. There's not just one vitamin C. And also, this is important for regenerating tissues, not just your immune system. So I start to get this depth and breadth of understanding about nutrition and how we interact with our environment. Because that's really what nutrition is like the most intimate thing, is like what you're taking from outside yourself and putting it inside of you. Like that is just like mind blowing. And so stacking the conditions in my favor by upgrading the food that I was eating. And then the third part was real rest and recovery, because your body truly heals while you're asleep. Yep. And so those three things led to that initial 6-week experiment. And then 9 months later, getting a scan done and standing there with my last doctor and him telling me, wow, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. We haven't seen this before, because I'd regenerated the tissue they said was impossible. Right on. When you have something like that happen, first of all, I fired my doctor. Second of all, it changed my paradigm to know that to say that something's incurable outside the healing power of what created all of this is just silly. Yeah. You know, and so since then, people saw the transformation that happened. I was still in school. My professors started coming asking me for help, students. Wow. That was the birthing of my career. And since then, hundreds of thousands of people have been impacted by my work, and I'm very, very honored, and I'm glad. I would not take away one moment of that pain,
right?
Because it helped to create all of this that I see today.
Well, it showed you how powerful you can be, yourself as a person and what you can teach to others. And that's kind of like even me as a pro athlete, when I was coming up in MMA wasn't popular. So we'd go in there, you get busted up. There was no insurance. There was no medical. There was nothing. We had to go home and, you lick your wound in the corner and you get ready to go fight again for $500. So I had tons of injuries. And my thing that I would do is I would say, you got to heal or I'm going to cut you off. That's it. And I went into, it was a little, what I call a caveman gangster mode that I had my mind in. But I noticed throughout my whole career, everything would heal. And one of the biggest times I noticed, I ripped, I can't remember which one, you can look and see, I think it's this one.
Yeah.
I ripped this bicep muscle to where it dropped down to where I couldn't even curl 10 pounds. And I was going to see a chiropractor. I didn't want to mess with any doctors cutting medication. I didn't mess with that. And he was just adjusting me, trying to mess with the arm. And I'm trying to curl. I can only get 10 pounds. And, even Rebecca was working out with me. And I'm lifting 70 over here, 10 over here, and I would not stop working out. I kept telling that arm, you're going to get it together. I'm cutting you off. That's all that's going to happen. You can't hold up the program. And then one morning I woke up and all of my strength was back. And I was sitting there, I was throwing uppercuts, and I couldn't, before I couldn't throw them anymore. Yeah. And I was, whoa, this is really back, man. Go to the weight room, let's lift the weights, and I was lifting probably about 40. I'm like, wow, I'm getting my power. Went to see the chiropractor, and he even told me, he said, it reattached itself. He's like, that's weird. He said, and weird. you got movement. I was like, yeah. And one of the things he was trying to do was push my hand to my shoulder, and every time he tried to do it, I almost knocked him out. I'm like, that hurts. And he took it, and it went with no problem. He's like, man, it's like it's almost back to normal. He said, do you have your strength? I said, I was curling a 40-pounder like it was nothing. I'm sure I'll get my power back. Yeah. But I try to teach people that, and it's like you say, it's a hard thing to teach, because I even had a woman who her knee went out real bad. And she was just like, I don't know what to do. She was saying doctors, this and that. She was older woman, probably about my age, in her mid 40s. And I'd set her in my office because she was the real deal. She really wanted. I said, look, I'm gonna tell you this. This is what I do when I get injured. I tell my body, you got to catch up, or you getting cut off. That's all to it. And she did that. She put herself in that mentality, and she hit her knee. Her knee came back to normal. She's squatting, doing everything she wants to do. So it's always good to have somebody like, I hope all my listeners hearing you tell this story from either your back, and being young, and somebody telling you it's over. Because how many people now, 40, 50, 60 years old, something happens and the doctor says it's game over for you. Yeah. And the doctor's going to protect himself. He's not going to say, go take MMA or go to the track and go run and see if you can fix it. He's going to say, you need to go lay down and take this medication because you ain't suing me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because they tell them anything else, then the doctor can be liable for it if they go out there and hurt themselves. And I tell a lot of my clients, I say, look, when you're talking to your doctor, you have to let him know that I'm not accepting that. Dude, I'm not going to do that. You need to tell me something else, because I'm not stopping my life right now. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do. And then that doctor may take his brain to another level and say, oh, really? You're not somebody who just want pills and want to sue me if the pills don't work? So. And
there are physicians out there, but they're far and in between right now. Things are changing, who could be on the same page with you. But this can sound a little metaphysical, but you and I both know this experientially. For me, it's really science-based, and looking at the research. If people don't want to dig in and look around on PubMed or anything like that, there are fantastic books out there. Dr. Lisa Rankin, Mind Over Medicine. People could check out this book and see the documented stories that really show the power of your mind and your thinking with you healing your body. Because here's the reality, real frank, is that your brain is controlling all of the healing processes. Yep. And you are in control of your brain, but most people think their brain is controlling them. Right. So when this is getting into the conversation of your mind isn't just in your head. It's everything about you. It's something bigger. So being able to dictate and to communicate and to affirm and to even beyond affirmation, but incantation, like really getting involved in what you're telling yourself and programming yourselves to do is very powerful for transformation. And it all really goes on the back of this well-known scientific truth, which is placebos, which is generally nothing more than a sugar pill, are 33% effective across the board in clinical studies. Right? Somebody thinks that they're taking a medication for chemotherapy to kill cancer. The cancer dies, their hair falls out, and they're not even taking chemotherapy. Yep. It's the power of your mind. And again, don't just listen to the expert. Go to Dr. Google, look around. You can find so many of these stories, and it's just a matter of understanding, like, the power really is in your hand, but you have to get connected to what's real about yourself, know, and not the stories that you pick up from your environment. And of course it does. I think this is an important word, and I've talked about this a lot lately. Courage, I don't think it can be overstated. Like, it's so important. You having the courage to really step up and step into your greatness.
Right.
And it can be scary at first, but I promise you get adapted to that fear. You know, so that's really what it boils down to, is having the courage to say no or to say yes, just to step into your greatness, can really change the game for you.
And that's so funny you saying it, because my very first podcast I did was, I said, before we start on anything about Jermaine Andre or what I'm trying to talk to you about, I have to be able to communicate with you. I can't communicate with you if you're not honest with yourself, because I'm going to say some stuff that's going to be a serious impact. And if you're not straight with yourself, and I'm not talking about going on Facebook and saying, oh, I have this and I have that, and I'm talking about with you and admitting to yourself, even if you want to lie to everybody else in the world, do that. But you have to be able to admit to yourself before you can start making any kind of real serious changes, or everything I say is going to be an insult. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like what you're saying right there. And then I said, that's scary, to go in there and admit to the truths inside yourself and find out what you're made of. So that's a scary path. So now you got to learn not to be afraid of fear. Like you're saying, you'll get to a point where you got to get out there, and you're going to be afraid sometimes, but you got to keep moving and keep trying. Yeah. But that's the biggest part of it right there, man. And I deal with that a lot with our clients, is they'll be so dishonest with themselves that I can't help you.
Right.
There's nothing I can do for you if you're not telling me. I say, I want to know every ice cube you eat. I need to know if a fly flies in your mouth and you swallow them. I want to know that you hate that fly, But more importantly, you got to say first that you're going to be honest with yourself. Yeah. And that's hard, because when we look at ourselves, I do it every day. Sometimes I look at myself. The first thing I do when I wake up, I do my meditation, my prayer, and I try and look and say, where do I suck at? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It sucks to suck. You know what I'm saying? But when I find that, I can say, okay, how am I treating my friends? How am I treating people? Did I do this right? And then I can step back and see that, okay, where I'm messing up at. And then every day is almost like a whole new beginning. Right. But that's so true. And it's funny when you say that, because that was what my first podcast was about.
Yeah. And, for me, again, just going back to the science, like all this stuff, it didn't happen on accident as well. Like, I say this as often as possible, stacking the conditions in your favor.
Yeah.
So I just did a post yesterday on Instagram, and here, I actually reach over the magic of television. I'll grab and see what it says. So this is a quote from my show. I said that there is nothing that's incurable. There's nothing outside the healing power of what created you. And then I wrote a post about it and talking about this isn't just, airy-fairy thinking, like, I changed the raw materials I was putting in my body, because if you have a cut, if I get a cut on my arm and I start like packing it full of Dorito crumbs and like pouring grape vest soda on here, it's probably not going to heal right, if at all, if I keep doing that on a daily basis.
Right.
We can get that externally, but we don't really realize same thing is going on internally. Your body knows how to heal itself. You just got to get out of the way. And also,
that's good.
You would help it if you provided the raw materials that it needs to heal properly. So instead of Dorito crumbs, maybe I put aloe vera right here,
right.
And maybe some raw honey, some Manuka, level 1000 honey or something, things that have documented proof and effectiveness for healing, cuts and burns and things like that. So for any of us, if it's a blood sugar condition, so in my clinic we had, it's 89% reversal rate, almost 90% for type 2 diabetes, about the same thing for hypertension and high blood pressure. So I've helped so many people to help themselves to get off of metformin, lisinopril, statins, things like this, by changing the information they're putting in their body. Because food isn't just food, it's information, and it's going to literally program a cascade that's going to affect all of your 100 trillion cells. It doesn't matter if it's a bite of a banana or a donut. It's going to affect everything about you.
Right.
And we have the power to dictate that stuff. It's so empowering once you get this. It could be a little scary once you understand, like, it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
But most people never look at that. We don't really translate the fact that I'm doing this to myself, because we're so caught up in what's going on around us in our environment.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people are afraid to admit that what they've been doing the whole time has been wrong also. And that's like what you were saying, how they're afraid to admit to the truth. I think that's what comes with that, everything I've been doing so far has been wrong, and that's hard to admit to.
Well, it's a change in their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the hardest things to do is change.
Yeah.
Because that's something I was going to ask you too. What's a good how can I put it? A good advice you could give for sugar addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's addicted. I mean, we know that, I think sugar's at 80% of the food that's put out there, unless you really know how to search, you know what I'm saying, and go find healthy food. Everybody who comes train under me, even people who are in shape, they don't even know that this is unhealthy, this is unhealthy. And then they change it so much. Yeah. They change the name, now it's called glucose. Now it's called, you know what I'm saying? Where you look at the ingredients, unless you in college every day or, you know what I'm saying? And you got time, and people don't have time. People are working out. We know with the economy doing what it did, if you want to keep your home and your one car, you're working 12 to 14 hours a day. Then you're going home and trying to take care of the kids. You don't have time for that. So I notice one of the hardest things is to get people to fight those addictions, because one of the things they deal with too is even going to work. At work now it's all junk out because they're just trying to keep everybody medicated is what I like to call it, medicated on sugar. It's an antidepressant. You depressed, feel like a bum, you pick up a Snickers bar, all of a sudden now you feel a little better. That sugar high, you feel perked. And even as an athlete, I used to have to fight sugar addiction because I got about 20 sugar tooths in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? I love ice cream, candy, all that. And when it came fight time, I knew what I needed to do. So then I would, have to shut that stuff off. And that was murder, man. That was hard, sitting there watching TV and, you're like, oh, I need a candy bar or something. But I had personally that, okay, Jermaine, you eat that candy bar, you're going to get knocked out in front of everybody. So that was my, what stopped me. Leverage, so I would use that. But even when, I would get her and we trying to cut her or something, I get her off sugar. And I'm sitting over eating my half a candy bar and she can't have any. She's over there looking at me like, this is horrible, man. This is, I'm like, and I feel sorry for her. I'm like, here's a little bit, or something like that. So what would be a good advice that you could give to help people break that? Because I'm still coming from more of the caveman that, I got to do this, don't do wrong. I'm going to punch myself in the face if I do wrong. And everyday people can't do that like I can.
So it's really, for me, it starts with education, but just enough so that you know what's going on. Right. So number one, you just said it, when you have those sugars, so what happens is, and you talked about feeling good, we actually get a little bit of a serotonin kick when we have this. So, and that's a feel-good hormone. But what's so messed up about it is that it's not very long lasting, so you have that crash and then you that's where the addiction starts to take place. You're addicted to that serotonin. Mm-hmm. So what we have to do initially is we have to find something to give you that serotonin kick, and it might be something that's outside your paradigm, so it's really difficult to take away something that somebody loves and not replace it with something that they love as much or better. Right. This is what makes me so different in my practice, and what's made me so effective and successful is really giving people access to things that they probably never even knew about before that they get to have, because you can get a serotonin hit, from that sugar from a sweet potato, or, but that might not sound sexy to people, or it might be chocolate, but the good stuff, so I did a TED Talk back in, it was 2010, I think, and I talked about, and the title was how chocolate could save the world. And I talked about the indigenous.
I like that title.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
So the indigenous version, the roots, the origin of chocolate, and how, Aztec societies actually, their emperor, their currency was chocolate beans, right? They had gold and precious gems, but they use money as chocolate as a form of. So if you want to get a chicken, it'd be 5 chocolate cacao beans, and it was called cacao. And then when Europeans eventually kind of confiscated that land, it changed and it became cocoa at some point, And this is also when the Dutching process happened and sugar being added to it. And it became something far different from its original root, which they weren't making chocolate bars. They were making chocolate drinks. And oftentimes it'd be combined with spices. This is why if you get some chocolate that has peppermint or some kind of heat to it as well, it's pretty good. And so getting people connected back to that, so getting some maybe 80% or 70% cacao instead of chocolate. And you see this everywhere now. When I was talking about this, almost 10 years ago, you didn't see this in Deerbergs, or Schnucks or Ralph's or wherever grocery store people go to. I think Kroger's is still around some parts of the country, but you can go there, look at the candy section, and it'll say on a Hershey's bar, 70% cacao. Really? the paradigm is changing, so things like that. So allowing yourself to have those things, but we need to essentially, here's the bottom line. Chronic nutrient deficiency leads to overeating. Nutrient deficiency leads to overeating. So you need to get your bases covered, and how you're going to do this is by eating real food. So the first step, I think, for somebody, especially if they've gone to the Danish tray or the donut tray there at Worth the Bagels, is to make sure, just get yourself a higher quality breakfast, and so for me, we can get even to the stories like intermittent fasting, like you don't even need that. But if we're like level 1 and like this is an issue for you, really starting your day off with a high quality breakfast to get you loaded, overflowing with minerals so that you don't go, I don't know if we can say, is this show explicit?
Anything that we don't like, he can beat.
Okay.
So you can
I'm
say
not even
going to
say it. All right. I'm not even going to say it. So
anything you can say on a local radio, you can say on it.
All right. Because my show is PG too.
Yeah, mine's PG. What is PG-13?
All right. so
PG-17.
So this would really, to make sure that, to ensure that you don't go crazy on that stuff that you see, when you get to work. And so what that would look like is, if somebody has a really strong addiction to carbohydrates, I would say proactively give yourself some carbohydrates in a smarter form. So we already mentioned sweet potato, for example. You can get yourself some Japanese sweet potatoes, which are fantastic. Some of them, like, it tastes like cake.
Where can you find Japanese sweet potato at?
So this could be like at a global market, like a foreign foods market, or local. Whole Foods are everywhere now, which makes everything.
Would Deerbergs have it?
Nah, I haven't seen them there yet.
Shame on them.
But
That's my store.
they're bringing in a lot. They've got a big organic section now, which again, it's because of demand. You vote with your dollar. They're going to keep supplying more the more you demand it. And so, or just regular Jewel sweet potatoes. You can put in like 5 at a time into your oven and then just wrap them up in some foil, and you can just take them out whenever you need them. So have some sweet potato. Make sure you get some protein. So this could look like some pastured sausages, maybe some andouille or some chorizo or something like that. Something that tastes really good. Maybe you can make a scramble with some eggs. But also a huge part, and where you really get the vast majority of your minerals, and also it's going to turn on another hormone called leptin, which is a satiety hormone, so you don't feel like you're going to go crazy when your food comes around. So leptin is a satiety hormone, is making sure you're eating non-starchy vegetables. And so this is a huge paradigm shift for us in our culture, where breakfast is usually dessert.
Right.
Pancakes is dessert. Syrup. Muffins, all this stuff. So you're getting your breakfast scramble, you've got a little sweet potato, and then you've got some sauteed spinach. And I don't know if you guys saw that little meme going around on, like, there's this little Instagram or Facebook picture where it's like 5 boxes of spinach, and then it's cooked, and it's like this much spinach, when you cook it, because it really cooks down, but it's still a lot of density there. Or this morning, I'll just share with you guys what I had. So I had, and I'm doing a lower carbohydrate thing in the morning. So I had some pasture-raised sausage. I had some free-range eggs scrambled with turmeric to help prevent the oxidation. And turmeric is also anti-angiogenesis, so it helps to prevent cancer cells from developing. And I had some avocado, half of an avocado.
I love avocado.
Yeah, I know, right? And then I had a big serving, like half of my plate was sauteed greens that my mother-in-law made. Right. So getting those non-starchy vegetables in the morning could be a big game changer. It's just changing your concept of breakfast. And even just one more thing I'm going to say really quickly, we can make it even simpler than that. You can just do classic, eggs and bacon, and then add in some veggies or add in some sweet potato.
Gotcha.
Make it super simple. Get yourself mineralized so that when you get to the office or whatever, you really put yourself in a prime position to not go crazy.
Yeah, go crazy over the stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'll do eggs, turkey bacon, couple of turkey bacons, 1 piece of toast, and I try to do some fruit in there. So it's okay. I'm the spinach freak.
Yeah.
I love it. The only problem we got with spinach is I eat too much. 'Cause like you said, we take that whole bag, dump it in, and then here you go. I'm like, I need more, more spinach. But so it's good to do it in morning for breakfast too, huh?
Absolutely. You've got, if your goal is breaking sugar addiction, or also especially weight loss, every meal, and I've worked with thousands of people, every one of your meals needs to have at least half your plate be non-starchy veggies, okay, cooked or uncooked. And this is really important.
What all regulates is non-starchy vegetables?
So this would be anything green leafy vegetables.
Okay.
All right. So this would be kale, collards, spinach, mustard greens. There's different variations of kale as well. So there's like the dinosaur kale, but then also things like zucchini. You know, chop up some zucchini, saute some zucchinis. I think that's a pretty good place to start. It's just not the green leafy vegetables, things like zucchinis, which is actually a fruit. You know,
right.
If it has seeds in it, it's a fruit.
Got seeds in it, yeah.
So, you know, peppers, things like that, you know. So that would be that. But I can't in good consciousness tell you guys about breaking a sugar addiction without talking about one of the really powerful underlying things that a lot of people, they really just don't know about. I didn't know about it, which is you have upwards of 100 trillion cells, but you have 10 times more bacteria than you have human cells. So you're literally more bacteria than Rebecca cells, right? Which is just kind of like, we don't really get that. It's really hard to wrap our minds around. So you're not just running your system. These guys are also helping to dictate and run your system. You know, so a big part of addiction is what the bacteria in your gut are calling for, you know, because they want to stay in control of your ship.
Right.
You know, so it's basically like they've carjacked your ride and they're trying to stay in control. And so sugar is a big catalyst. And this is where a lot of people talk about like candida and things like that. But it's just not candida. There are a lot of lower level bacteria and funguses that all of us have, but the percentage can get skewed. You know, instead of it being 20% or less, it's 50% or more, you know, for a lot of people in our society. And it's very difficult when your biology is telling you to eat something, your brain is like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, so a big part of this is really cleaning house and getting your internal environment cleaner. That's why I started with the real food thing, but also, you know, doing some strategic cleansing, some fasting, bringing in some probiotics and probiotic food, prebiotic food to help to make it more unfriendly for the bad guys to kind of be controlling your ship.
Right.
So that's one of the really important part is changing that bacteria cascade consciously and proactively. You know, it's going to be a big help in getting off sugar addiction.
Okay. Now here I got another question for you.
Sure.
Rebecca here is one of the main reasons I brought her on. She's sitting over here keeping quiet because it's always hard for her to get a word in when I'm around anyway. But she just did she tried to follow my old fashioned, you know.
No, I didn't try to. I did.
No, except you still didn't listen. You still wasn't eating like I told you to. But she did follow my old fashioned weight cut, you know, as an athlete. And we do 2 a day of training, you know, and we're cutting weight. Now, what happened was she mixed the two together, and she wasn't eating a lot, and she was trying to do 2 a days to cut weight. Also, while she's weightlifting, you know, march. And it's really hard with us, you know, because, you know, like I say, when people come in, oh, man, I want to be built like you. Well, wait a minute, I want to throw a kick like you. Wait a minute, I want to be able to run like you. You know what I'm saying? And you get all those things are different because even my size, I always tell people, I never lifted weights to be big. I never said, ooh, I want to have big arms. Ooh, I want to have a big chest. Ooh, I want to be the... It's just, you know, I lifted weights so I could hit hard but I wanted to maintain my flexibility and everything else. So when she was stepping into that rim where she's got to this point where she's, you know, becoming Supergirl. And it's time to become Supergirl. You know what I'm saying? So she's really getting ready to go hardcore. She get ready to test for her level 3 striking expert. And she ended up, you know, messing herself up where she got sick for like, 2-3 weeks?
About 3 weeks.
Yeah, she went down, and it shut her totally down. And I kind of explained to her, I said, well, you know, first of all, whenever we cut as fighters, you know, myself personally, I never used to cut. You know, I fought at 185. I would weigh 183 fight day. I walked around probably 187 to 192. And I trained at 185 because I always wanted this the size I'm going to fight at. So I want my trainer to be able to work with me with the weight the vehicle is going to be when it hits the track instead of being heavier. So I never was a big time cutter. But I did 2 a day training because I did my running in the morning, you know, then my martial arts at night, or my running in the morning, my weightlifting at night, you know, but I ate until I was full. Healthy stuff. I ate whatever I wanted to eat until I was full. So that's kind of what I wanted her to do. But she's looking at it still from the thing of, well, Jermaine, but you got the cut, you know, when I have my fighter's cut, and she's hearing it, you know, you overweight, boy, what's wrong with you, man? Now you you get protein for dinner, protein for lunch, and then you can have a breakfast. That's all you get. And you hit the steamer. So she's thinking that, and she's cutting like that.
I was thinking about dieting along with upping my training. So what happened, I upped my training, but my calories went down. Yeah. So I wasn't upping the calories while I was upping my training, and I got really sick from that.
So what I don't want her to be afraid of two-a-days, because every time she does two-a-days, I haven't done them since. Yeah, she told me, and I'm like, you need it. She's like, I'm not doing two-a-day. She give me that look where I just shut up. You know what I'm saying? I know when to be quiet, but I don't want her to stop and to be afraid of that. Yeah. So what would you suggest that she should be eating to be able to maintain that? Because I told her, I said, look, I'm the old caveman, I got a stick and there's meat to eat and I got a water fight and I'm going to do whatever I got to do. So it's the mentality I had that helped me through the fight game. I said, but now these guys got this stuff down to a science. Yeah. They're experts with it. So you need to, talk to somebody who can give you better advice. You've kind of graduated from me in that area. Unless you want to get on a mission where, you get an arrow in the leg, I tell you just break it off, lick it, and keep going. You know what I'm saying? So, but what would you think?
Yeah. So here's one of the foundational things. So based on evolutionary biology, that's a stress response. When you're training like that, and the calories are at a deficit. So this is very recent that we have access to even have these conversations about what to eat and what not to eat. We evolved in a time you got to do what you got to do to survive.
Right.
And so when there's a calorie restriction happening, right? There's a calorie restriction happening and you're also doing very physical things. Your evolution, everything about you, all your cells are this is looking for food.
Right.
Proactively, they're fighting for food and for their life, but they're not getting much food.
Right.
We need to shut her down. We need to shut the system down.
Yeah.
So that she can survive, because it's a stress response. So you have to definitely be more abundant in your intake for sure if you're going to do two-a-days. And also this really depends on the person, because his design is going to work great for him.
Yeah.
But other people it's going to have to be tweaked. So for you as a woman and also training at that level, I think it would be more important for you to have actually maybe a higher ratio of carbohydrates.
That's good to
hear. And so, but you've got to watch it. You got to find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I would think that and also here's another thing is that especially if you're not upping the intake because it's I don't feel like eating, carbohydrates also trigger hunger as well.
Okay.
So they can be a catalyst for kind of encouraging your appetite.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more, rice, a little bit more fruit, sweet potatoes, things like that would help.
Yeah, that's what was happening. I wasn't hungry, so I wasn't thinking about eating. I was eating the way I always, ate on an everyday basis. So
yeah, it's difficult. And also liquid nutrition is also very helpful. So, but breaking out that blender and blending it full of real food.
Right. Okay.
So I use the hemp protein from On It, for example. Maybe, and for you again, maybe I'd use half of a banana, some berries, some greens. So it might be a bunch of spinach or kale or whatever's going in there. And then also to fortify your immune system, because I think that especially hitting the floor like that, your immune system wasn't trained very well. Mm-hmm. So things like medicinal mushrooms. So chaga mushroom, for example, that's reishi. So chaga has 300% increase in your NK cells activity. So these are natural killer cells. So these help you to basically your immune system to build weapons against whatever you might be exposed to.
Okay.
So opening up some capsules of that and putting your smoothie blended up, so things like that. Chaga, reishi, cordyceps is great for athletes and for training. A lot of clinical research with cordyceps and its effectiveness for increasing your oxygenation of your cells. So you'll just be able to train better, more efficiently.
Okay.
And it's an adaptogen as well. So kind of like a tonic, the more you take it, the better you get, versus some things, if you take them too much, it can start to cause reverse,
right?
And so you should cycle them.
Okay.
So things like that, maca might be something to look into as well. But getting that liquid nutrition in can help you to sneak more calories in.
Right.
But for people who want to lose weight, they can use that same moniker as well, but I'd add more fat to their shake. And so a little bit fat for you too. So maybe some almond butter or something like that. But make sure you chew the smoothie.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
The saying is to chew your juice and drink your food. Right. So by the time you're done, even with the salad, it should be like a smoothie in your mouth. You really need to chew it up. And that's going to help you to encode your DNA and RNA in your saliva onto the food.
Yeah.
Literally, if you're going to get a paternity test, you're not the father. They take a swab from your
food
inside of your mouth. And so that's going to help you to assimilate the food more. So what's happening too, if you're not chewing your food well, is there going to be a higher autoimmune response. Statistically, somebody who's you're pretty normal body type, body shape, your BMI and all that good stuff, you're going to get a 6% increase in cortisol, in stress hormones, just from eating a meal. You know, people who are overweight can be upwards of 80%. But because your body's going to increase in a stress response because it's trying to make discernment between self and other.
Right.
So you're encoding that food with self, so it's not causing an immune response. It's why you definitely need to chew your food better.
Yeah.
So these little things like that can help to change the game for
interesting.
you and to not be in fear of the 2-a-day.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So I can say that's why I
Now it's
have
back
been
to 2-a-days.
sick in 20 years. I don't catch colds or flus, but you know what I do? I chew the crap out of my food. And everybody they say, you take so long to eat. I say, I want to taste my food. Yeah. And if it's not chewed totally up, I can find anything in it. It's just like you sit down and eat a steak with me, half of that steak gets spit out, you know, secretly. You know what I'm saying? Because if I can't chew it, I don't swallow it. And I find all kinds, what is this? You know, you know, I'm not swallowing that. But you got to chew your food. And then that helps me, too, when I'm sharing a meal with her because she always get, you know, we got 4 or something. She eats 3. And I'm like, on the first one, I'm like, what the? Because she eats so fast.
That sounds like me and my family, too. Yeah, for sure.
Now, I know we run out of time here, but definitely I want to ask if you can give me just a small example of like your routine, because like I say, you know, when I train a lot of people come to me, and I'm a martial artist first. Yeah. You know, the first thing I want to teach people is self-defense. This is how you protect yourself. You know, then if you want to learn, you want to compete, I got your back. You know, if you want to learn the fancy stuff for fun, I got your back. You know, and you can use this to get in shape. You know, you want to add weights to it, I can help you with that. But a lot of people are looking, they want to be, you know, built like me, and then they start wanting to use this for more fitness. Yeah. So I find myself getting pulled in that direction, and where I'm saying that you need to throw 10,000 kicks a day. You know, that's what I'm saying. But they're saying, no, that's not it. So what kind of routine do you do to have the build that you got? Because that's one thing I try to teach everybody too. I say, look, I'm big, and this is mostly genetics. You know, it's not because I'm out there just pressing weights every day. I lift weights probably once a week. You know, and it's been like that for a long time. I say, let's say if the world went to Mad Max state, I said, I'd be dropping down to 165, 170. I wouldn't even be like this. I said, so this stuff gets in the way, guys. You know, even when I fought, you know, this muscle was in the way. So I had to adjust my fighting style where I wasn't using so much energy. I said, so you don't want to be a humongous martial artist. You know, that works on TV. You know, you want to be nice and slim and trim and flexible where you can move around. And that's what I'm saying, the kind of build you have. You know, and that's kind of what I try to get everybody to go for, more like that than trying to look like Jermaine Andre, because this is just a freak of nature, you know, mainly. And I learned a lot, you know, building myself like that, and I can help you in that area. But what would you, like your routine, if you give just a small, you know, piece of it? Sure.
Well, the reason that, you know, my show is called The Model Health Show, and I'm really about providing a model for people what's possible, right? And so for me, my story's different. You know, like I have 3 kids. I have, you know, multiple businesses. I write, you know, I write books. I have my own show. I was seeing patients like, you know, 8 to 10 people a day for many years, and doing all this stuff and still trying to take care of myself and not live in the gym, you know. So my stuff was more so on minimum effective dose, you know. So, and I've been on all sides of the spectrum. Like if you see my family, everybody in my family is obese pretty much, you know. Like I have those genetics, and I've seen that fluffiness manifest for sure, you know, being right around 200 pounds myself. But now, you know, because my metabolism has changed, which again, this really boils down to something called epigenetics, right? This basically means above genetic control. You could turn on and turn off certain genetic programs. Right. All right. And so I've turned on genetic program for being more of a hard gainer, you know, like I've got to work. Like it's difficult, especially when you eat real food, to eat a lot of real food. Yeah. You know, so it's a higher quality problem. And so for me, what I generally do is, I'll just share what I'm doing right now. So right now I'm doing intermittent fasting. So in the morning, I generally am not eating a traditional breakfast and breakfast time. I generally am done eating at 8 p.m. and then I eat my first meal maybe around 10:30 the next day. And in between that time, maybe I'll have some yerba mate tea or some green tea or something like that. And it really allows, and I talk a lot about this on my show as well. It makes me very productive, you know, and there's a lot of research backing that up, because when you're a little hungry, your system becomes heightened, you know, because it's like, definitely, you know? And so, but then when I do eat, I'm getting a lot of food in that 10:30 to 8 time period. And so I'm generally training in the afternoon, and I used to train in the morning for many years. So that's very effective. And it's great for also helping your sleep. So I do something in the morning. So for me, it might be going on a 20-minute power walk or jumping on a rebounder, you know, a little mini trampoline. or maybe do some Tabata or something like that. Maybe just some mobility work, but I'm going to do something, some yoga maybe. But in the evening, early evening, so like around 4:30 is like when I like to hit the gym. And statistically, testosterone is higher at that point. You know, your lifts are going to be better in the afternoon, according to the research. Okay. Yeah, and experientially as well. And so I really base my program on something I call hybrid training. So I'll get in there and I'll do my anabolic lift always at the beginning of my workout. So this might be a heavy deadlift, or maybe it's a heavy squat, or maybe it's a heavy press, or maybe it's weighted pull-ups or something like that. Something that I can only do a few reps, but I'll do lots of sets. So it might be a 5x3 of deadlifts. You know, maybe I'll work my way. And again, with the back issues from back in the day, I started with just the bar, right? You know, and then I got to 135 eventually. Now I'm right around 400 pounds. And so this is something that, and again, I'm probably around 163 pounds or something like that right now. And so to be able to lift that much weight is pretty good feat. But the real benefit is the anabolic hormone production that makes your body burn fat when you're not working out, right? So I do that, and then after I do, and this takes probably 20 minutes of my time, and I'm about being efficient. I might be there for 45 minutes to an hour. And so now I'm going to transition into superset training. So this is where I'm combining, generally it's going to be antagonist muscle groups, so things that are opposite of each other. So I might do a press and then immediately go to a pull. Right. Or maybe I'll do some pull-ups and I'll immediately go and do some decline push-ups, you know, where my feet are up or something like that. Right. You know, so I might do 15 pull-ups and then 25 push-ups or something like that. Or I'll do weighted dips, head over and do a lat pull down or a seated row. And so I'll do those much higher reps, less rest in between. Whereas my anabolic lifts, there's a lot of rest there. So I'll do three reps and then I'll wait around for 3 minutes till I'm fully recovered, because the magic is really in getting those good lifts in. Whereas the metabolic training over here is more so for just really getting the heart rate up and getting your body into more of a fat burning state. And so maybe I'll do 3 supersets. So that means it's a total of 6 exercises. So I'll do, let's just use the pull-up and the push-up example. I'll do those back-to-back immediately with no rest. So 15 pull-ups, 25 push-ups, then I'll wait for 1 minute, and then I'll do it again. All right? And I might not be able to get 15 on the next pull-up. Maybe it's 12, you know, because I'm really getting in there and putting it on myself, you know. Yeah. And so that'll last, that part of the workout might last another 20, 25 minutes. And then I'll put a bow on it. You know, I'll cool down, maybe do a little mobility work, start refueling. Post-workout, for me, super important, especially because, again, I'll lose weight quickly. If I skip a meal, like, I'll lose 3 pounds, you know. And so, which, again, is a high quality problem, but it's really important. So with my nutrition, really quickly, that first meal is going to look like what I talked about earlier. I'm eating lower carb until post-workout. This is a real powerful secret for fat loss. And so, because carbohydrates turn on insulin, which triggers your body to store fat. All right. Insulin is your body's number 1 fat storing / energy storing hormone. So I'll just keep insulin down during the first part of the day with proteins and high quality fats and lots of non-starchy vegetables. So my breakfast I already described to you guys. Lunch is a huge salad. Like, I eat out of a serving dish, my salad, you know, so it's going to have some eggs in there, some chicken, some olives. I'll make my own dressing, which literally just lemon, olive oil, and maybe like some honey mustard or some spicy mustard or something. And I'll eat that up for lunch. Post-workout, I'm going to do just protein, the hemp force protein, with some honey. I'll put some honey in there to get that extra sugar. Because now post-workout, your body's preferentially going to shuttle those carbohydrates to refill your muscle glycogen instead of getting put on your butt. Yeah. Right? Gotcha. And so, and then dinner would be a higher carb meal, like lower fat, higher carb. So this would look like, let's see what we had last night. We had some chicken. So like rotisserie, like I had a couple of the wings off the rotisserie chicken and a thigh, half the plate of non-starchy vegetables, and a nice big sweet potato. And that's what it would look like for me.
Now, that all sounds good. And I can see all of my, my clients running around with a headphone on, and in the kitchen trying to figure out what you said. Where can they get this menu?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Where can they get this menu? Where can I get this menu?
We really haven't. We've been sharing pieces. Like, if people listen to my show, it just depends on what episode, and I'll detail this stuff out. But really, we haven't put together like daily plans except in a course that I have. So it's called the Fat Loss Code. It's thefatlosscode.com. Okay. And we're moving over to like a membership model so people can get in there, less expensive and get access to all this stuff. But I have shared like the hybrid training. You can just go to themodelhealthshow.com and type in hybrid training, and you'll get a template of what that looks like. We do have recipe books, little mini recipe books, but not like a necessarily like eat this at this time.
Not the meal plan, but still good recipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's a superfood recipe book, because one of the things I didn't mention is the small things I'm adding. So in my salad, I'm going to add spirulina into my salad. And this is the highest protein food by weight in the world. And a lot of people don't know about it. 70% protein by weight. And it's an algae. So this was one of the very powerful documented foods. Like the Mexican Aztec culture was one of the long-lived, most incredible cultures in history. Like we still don't know how they built pyramids and whatnot.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, we can't do it. We can't recreate it.
Yeah. And spirulina was their main protein source. And same thing for like places in Africa, like Chad, for example. It's still very highly prized. And it sounds weird because it's an algae, but it actually tastes good with savory dishes. It tastes fantastic in guacamole, so I'll sprinkle a little bit of that in there. And because it's a real food, it's not just the protein. It also has a tremendous amount of minerals like magnesium, zeaxanthin, which could be the number one thing for your vision, on and on and on. Powerful stuff. Breakfast, I'll sprinkle some sea veggies on top of my avocado, like some dulse flakes. Higher source of potassium of any food known. Banana's supposed to be high. This is way higher. So little stuff like that. So the superfood recipe book you can get at themodelhealthshow.com/superfoods. And you get access to that. And because you mentioned it, like I got to start putting out some of the plans and sharing a little bit of this stuff.
Definitely.
That'd be awesome.
Because my people going to bother me now.
Yeah.
Hey, we can read that food plan he was talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well, man, I think we out of time here. It probably ran you over longer than you're supposed to. I know you're late for your next appointment.
It's all good.
But man, Shawn, I really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all the, the talk that you gave us. Like I said, I really like, what you've been through, because you're somebody who put this to work for yourself, through a hard trying time. And you prevailed over a lot of experts who told you it was game over for you.
Yeah.
And you said, no, it's game over for you. You know what I'm saying? And you went out there and you did it. Yeah. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. And all right, this is Jermaine Andre signing out from Life Fight. And, look at the camera over here. Not this one? Okay. Jermaine Andre listens. I hope everybody had a good listen to Shawn. I say this is a guy who has done it. He's very well educated. Like I said, a lot of times the thing that I deal with is more for your self-defense, your personal protection. But these tips that he's given for food is for helping you to protect your body, protect your mind, so that you can make it through life, and then you can succeed through life, because like you said, everything that you think, everything that your mind puts out into your body is making your body move. So definitely, especially you want to get that meal plan. What was that address again?
themodelhealthshow.com/superfoods.
Okay, because I'm going there and I'm gonna check out these superfoods, especially this protein that I knew nothing about. Right? Yep. So y'all better beat me to it. But thanks for joining. Remember, if you can, get on there, get us some reviews. Any kind of questions. Remember, don't be afraid to ask me anything. I talk about all kinds of wild stuff. And it's good seeing you. Got good hearing from you. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Jermaine Andre, Life Fight. Remember, because there's more to life than just fight.
For all things Jermaine Andre, get books, get trained. Learn the secrets behind his brawn, his brain, and his edge. Visit JermaineAndre.com. Life Fight with Jermaine Andre is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.